Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on just like DCTV, really, both in the present state and the future state, but also maybe the Arrowverse, though that might be people jumping ahead, but it's still worth, I guess, including in the conversation, considering that's just where we've come from. But 2024, like this coming year, is a big shift year, if you want to put it, when it comes to like the live action DC, or the DC live action media as a whole, whether it's over TV, film, or just both. Now, of course, the DCU just ended in 2023, the end of last year, with the release of Aquaman 2. And that was, of course, wrapping up the 10-year run of that universe, which started back in 2013 with Man of Steel. And 2024 will see the end of DCTV, or the DCTV era, on the CW with Superman and Lois Season 4. That run, of course, starting all the way back in 2001, I think it was, back with Smallville. Like back then, the CW wasn't even a thing. It was called the WB. So that's how long DCTV's been running on what is now known as the CW. Actually, the CW changed its name just recently. It's now just CW, which I guess I'm fine with. People blow off about it, but how often do you go someone go, oh, this is the CW show? They go, hey, it's a CW show. But with those runs ending in the respective universes of the, the film and TV side when it comes to DC, there is a big curiosity about what comes next and what hurdles might already be in the way for that new run to succeed going forward over the next 5, 10, how many years it might be. So in this video, we're going to cover some of the latest rumors, mostly rumors, but a tiny bit of news that's been coming out in regards to all of this and how it could affect things going forward. And also, funnily enough, how it could almost go full circle and it could almost end up like where we've just come from, which would be very weird, bit of deja vu, but it's definitely a possibility considering where different things are going. Now, to some, this would be for the better, some would be for the worse. It just sort of depends where you want things to go for the first place or what you're most happy with. But of course, throughout the video, be sure to let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions on all the stuff we go over. I'm very curious to hear what you guys have to say and what you sort of want and what you expect going forward, because I'm sure there could be some differing options. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video, drop a like on the video. It takes 2 seconds. Very much appreciated. So the first thing is sort of like a nothing burger to me at the very least, and it's something that I just don't see happening at all. I just think it's very unlikely, and that's Warner Brothers taking over Paramount or buying out Paramount. Now, this to me really has no effect on any of the stuff we're going over, but it's still something to mention because people think it could. I think it's nothing. I don't think it's going to happen just because I just don't see why Warner Brothers would want to. I can see why they would want to, but I don't think they're in the position to. Paramount has IP, that you can use, especially when you look like the Nickelodeon stuff and everything like that. There's definite IP stuff that can be used there and be taken advantage of, but is it worth Warner Brothers at this very point in time doing it? Probably not. I mean, there's still like a TV network in CBS there and stuff like that, but I don't know, when I think about it, I'm just like, why would Warner Brothers in the current state do it? If they were having a bit of a better time business wise, then fair enough, but I just don't see it happening. But this sort of came out not too long after some news came out. This has sort of been rumored for a while, and then it starts actually sort of gain some traction where people were talking about it more consistently. And this is Warner Brothers being taken over or bought out by Universal. So Universal would own Warner Brothers. Now, this is a big one because this has a decent chance of happening, and it's been something that's been rumored for quite a while. Do I think it's going to happen? I don't know. I just don't know if it'd be allowed because the FTC, the Fair Trade Commission, or whatever it is, or the version of that in America, they've sort of like said that they sort of regret allowing the Fox merger with Disney because it harmed a lot of the Fox stuff, and then Disney sort of like just took it away, like especially when it came to the amount of movies that would normally come out of the Fox side of things has been rapidly diminished now that it's under Disney. Now it's getting like only like a handful of things through the Searchlight sort of side of Fox over the past like how many years it's been since Disney owned them. So that example there makes me think that it wouldn't be allowed unless it's not necessarily a tearing down, where Warner Brothers would still exist and Universal would still exist, and they'd have their own different things, just so that there'd be a big head honcho that's over Warner Brothers from the Universal side. I don't know if it's going to happen, but if that did happen, that would affect a lot of the franchise and different subsidiaries or subdivisions within Warner Brothers, such as DC Films. Now, a lot of people think if Universal did buy out Warner Brothers and they sort of took control and stuff, that if the James Gunn stuff wasn't working at its highest potential, that they'd rework and they might put someone that's within the Universal system over there, or they would take DC and that would be under Universal. So even if like they sold the Warner Brothers part back to whoever it might be, DC wouldn't go along with Warner Brothers, which I'm not too sure about the legal side of things. I guess there's some sense there, but that's a thing that people have talked about. But even if that did happen, even though I don't think the likelihood is there, I don't know if it necessarily would change too much of the plans that's happening going forward with what DC's doing. I just don't think that the plans are in place. You'd probably just let the plans play out. And if it didn't work, then you would, you'd restructure it and stuff. And that would happen, I think, even if Universal wasn't involved. I think that'd probably still happen with Warner Brothers. But I think this is the big one. And we've just come out of the strikes from last year. They just wrapped up at the end of last year with like, a month or two before the end of the year, what might I say? So they just wrapped up. And one of the big conversations was the streaming things. Now, I think that the actors and stuff got a horrible deal. Like if you've actually read the deal, it makes you wonder why they even went on strike. The deal's horrible. But one thing that I've always been curious about, and there has been some slow changes, but nothing rapid. And I think they're not going to go, oh, there's the massive change. They're going to sprinkle it through. So just slowly goes up over time, whether it's a year, 2 years, 4 years, 5 years, whatever it is. And that's the streaming service like prices. And I think they're also going to there's going to be a lower amount of streaming shows coming out, or at least maybe streaming movies, whatever it is, but at least content for the most part, or they aim for cheaper content, like more reality shows, more sitcoms where it's like in one contained room, nothing overly the top, where there's like a decent sized budget to it. So don't expect any more Stranger Things sized shows, or at least that many coming out. Gotta remember, when Stranger Things came out, no one was talking about it. Came out, was really good, then everyone was talking about it. So don't expect any more like sleeper hits, I think, probably coming out. But with the streaming services and the potential failure there, is there an avenue to go back to network TV? Because I always felt that like streaming was always going to be like the more preferred thing, but I also felt the shift by a lot of the studios from network TV to streaming services and sort of wiping out genre TV for the most part. Like the CW was the last one doing genre TV, but pretty much all the networks did genre TV for the most part. But when that streaming service thing came out, they just moved all their genre stuff over to streaming services, and then all that was left on network TV outside of the CW of recent was just your cop shows, your medical dramas and stuff like that, which pretty much, if you've seen one, you've seen them all. Like none of them are really that overly inventive. So it makes you wonder, will there be an avenue back to network TV for a lot of these studios, and more specifically genre TV, such as like comic book stuff and whatever it might be? And I think the answer is probably, but I think it also just depends on what streaming services struggle, because I predict in the next 5 years something like Peacock probably goes down, and they just take their losses. Something like, I don't know, is Paramount Plus go that well? I'm not too sure. Like the only ones I can see surviving are your obvious ones like Netflix, Disney Plus, and probably HBO Max, though I think Warner Brothers doesn't even need a streaming service. I think it's sort of pointless, because also some of Netflix's most popular stuff is the stuff from Warner Brothers. So why would they just consistently keep selling their stuff to Netflix and actually make profit out of the gate? I don't know. To me, it seems like just trying to be greedy, but Netflix is always going to be king, regardless of which way you want to put it. So I think the failure of streaming services could lead to a thing back to network TV, and that leads to another thing where it's like, do you get like a part 2 or a next stage in a connected universe, whether it is specifically DC, or maybe even Marvel tries to go there as well if their stuff isn't working, though I think that's more of a stretch. I think DC is probably more likely to compared to Marvel, but that's something that like we won't be looking at for like 5 years at the very least, until you get any sort of inkling, I think, just because they'll definitely keep trying to make the streaming stuff work consistently. They'll just keep trying and trying and trying, which I don't think anyone should be really surprised. But you're not going to give up after a year. You're going to keep trying for at least 5, maybe even 10 years, but at least 5 years. But more specifically, when it comes to the DC side of things, I think one thing and this probably still falls into like 5, maybe 10 years, but probably 5 years, is the possible success or non-success of the James Gunn universe. Now, I'm hoping it's successful, just as a DC fan. Just for the love of God, we just needed to not be so inconsistent and so negative a lot of the time. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, toes crossed, whatever it needs to be crossed, that it works, because I think it needs to happen. But there is I think a lot of people are jumping, I'm not trying to be funny here, jumping the gun when it comes to James Gunn, that he's just going to make this a massive success. That's not a sure thing, and I'm still very not pessimistic. I'm usually like a pretty optimistic guy. Like you should know if you've watched my videos. I don't, hang out in the gutters just for the sake of it. But I think you'd have to be a bit over the top to just say, oh, this is easily going to be a success. Superman Legacy, $4 billion in the box office. Creature Commandos, best TV show. Like, you don't know. And that's the thing I'm worried about is, like, what if it doesn't work? And then what's the next stage? Because one thing that, and I think I mentioned this, I actually think I might have mentioned this like 6 months ago, ages ago, actually, because I was talking about some other stuff. But it was that Superman enters the public domain in 95 years. So 9 years, I think it is. It's 9 or 10 years that Superman enters the public domain, and then Batman's the year or two after that. So your two biggest characters can be used by those stupid Winnie the Pooh, Mickey Mouse horror makers. They can do those movies and use the character in 9 or 10 years. So your two best characters are, and foundations of your universe are pretty much going to be up for grabs. They will be up for grabs to use very, very soon. So I think that's like the ticking time bomb for James Gunn. Like, he has to make DC pretty successful to the point where either you don't have to rely on Batman or Superman, or it just doesn't matter that you got these you're going to have 50 different horror movies coming out, or different takes on evil Superman, or Batman where he's actually a bat or something, even though that's Man Bat. But anyway, that's a worry. But I think this whole thing where people are wondering, is it going to be this next network TV thing, or is this not going to work, and then they'll shift back to DCTV being separate and its own thing, its own universe, like an Arrowverse, and they'll keep the film side. That's still a wait and see. For me personally, and I've said this multiple times, I much prefer them being separate. We've seen the struggles with Marvel. In regards to their movie. They have they might have a good TV show and they'll have a good movie, but then they try the connectivity they just struggle with. It's just all over the place. And then sometimes it just feels like you're watching a TV show, so you understand a movie, or vice versa, whichever way it is. I'd prefer if they're separate and allows different visions and stuff like that, because if James Gunn's behind everything, is you're going to get that much diverse content in regards to the creativity side. You can have all the showrunners you want, but if it all tries to fit into the same thing, can it get a bit and you just sort of skip shows, which is pretty much what Marvel's faced, or Disney's faced with the Marvel side of things. But it's a wait and see. I think I know the conversation's been happening, and that's why I'm talking about it. I just thought I'd give my 2 cents, but I just think it's too early to really decide, because I don't know if you can really decide after Superman Legacy. I think you have to wait until not only Superman Legacy, but until you've probably got 3 or 4 shows and probably the same amount of movies, but more specifically the show thing. You have to wait, and if it's not working, then you go, okay, well, maybe this isn't the best idea. Then maybe you shift things around. But I don't know. We don't know how much faith David Zaslav has in regards to that side of things and everything like that. So I have faith. I'm hoping it's good. I think network TV at the moment could have a fight back, but I just think with the budgets and stuff that streaming has handed out, it's just too much of a lucrative thing. I think I even saw Seth MacFarlane say because he had that TED show come out, that he had an option for a network show, but it just wouldn't have worked because you got an animated bear coming around. It's just, you can't do that on network TV, and in decades gone by, you have to do it in the movies. But now streaming, with just these big budgets they have for what would normally be a lower budget, it just makes it the easy choice. That's where you're going to go, even though he's usually been a network TV guy. So yeah, I mean, this whole thing's a wait and see, but it's all about having faith, I guess, but also being fair when things happen. If something isn't working, it probably has to be addressed, and then you sort of, fix things from there. But the whole thing's a wait and see. But yeah, guys, this video was probably just me rambling, but it was just me giving my thoughts and my 2 cents, so hopefully it wasn't too incoherent to listen to. But if you enjoyed the video, it would be awesome if you could drop a like and show support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions on all the stuff we went over in this video, and any different thoughts you have on the different areas that we touched on. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.